Hello, my name is Anna Beke and I'm the dance history and dance science lecturer at the Ballett-Akademie Munich. I would like to welcome you, the entire Tanznetz community, to this special opportunity. 4 of my dance students are going to interview the 4 famous dance siblings, Julian MacKay, Nicholas MacKay, Nadia Khan, and Maria Sascha Khan. All of them became professional ballet dancers and are literally dancing all around the world. It is such a bliss and honor having you 4 today with us. Thank you so much for this. So thank you everyone for joining this exciting and really international interview, we can say, from Montana to Rome, from San Francisco to Munich, and from all of us to all of you, wherever you are at this moment. And now I would like to pass over to my first student, to Alexandra Trobimchuk, and she's going to speak with the youngest of the 4 siblings, with Nicholas MacKay. So enjoy, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, here I am. My name is Alexandra, and yeah, I'm the first interviewer today. Let's start, and the first question is, ballet and dance played a major role in the lives of all 4 of you. How did art and dance enter into your family in the very beginning?
First of all, nice to meet you. Yeah, I mean, in our family, kind of art and just music and many different forms of art have kind of always been there. Our dad was a classical pianist, so that was something that was kind of always around us. And my mom used to work in fashion, so kind of art and like I remember a lot of books about art being around always when I was growing up. We used to go to a lot of museums, especially me and my brother. We went to like tons and tons of museums. We used to love to go to museums when we were younger. And I think it's just kind of something that we grew up with. So it's something that we got used to and kind of understood that it could be a career path because it was brought to us that way. Whereas I think maybe if you don't grow up with it so much, you might not consider it as something that you can kind of do full time or do as a career. But yeah, I'm really grateful to my parents for kind of, always keeping that around us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's exciting. It was exciting to hear. I think going to the next question, right? All of you were born in Montana, the home of cowboys and kettles. But you didn't stay in the United States and went to Europe and Russia to fulfill your dreams. Can you tell us about where your siblings went for your ballet education and why?
Yeah, so me and Julian went to Russia when we were 9 and 11 years old. Julian went first, and then I came about like a year and a half after him. Yeah. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience. I think we didn't really understand what we were getting ourselves into when we were so young, and it was kind of just like an adventure for us. Also, because when you're so young, you don't like realize the magnitude of the whole situation, kind of like moving to a new country and everything. So honestly, we were just kind of like having fun when we were really little. But of course, it was very difficult. The school and everything it's like military boot camp. It's a very serious kind of school, but we were looking for a school that had a full curriculum involving like character dance and pas de deux and just in general like ballet history for one, that they don't have in a lot of other schools, especially in the US, unfortunately. So yeah, moving to Russia was kind of our step into getting professional training.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the next question is very frequently asked, but we're still very interested to hear your answer. So when did you realize you want to become professional ballet dancers? Was there a doubt about becoming professional dancers, or did 4 of you had some other interest in your childhood or youth?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We kind of did a lot of stuff. I remember even Julian, he did the most. He did like fencing, chess. He did a bunch of stuff. We did soccer, baseball. We tried, especially me, since I was the last one. I tried like everything before going into ballet because my mom, at that point, she knew how hard it was. And so actually by that point, she was kind of like, are you sure you want to do this? Because it's like, it's really difficult. And she kind of knew based on like her other children, how difficult it was actually going to be. Because a lot of people actually think that like, maybe like our mom like pushed us into it or she wanted us to do it. It was kind of the opposite. She had no idea, what it was. And by like the time I came along, it was kind of more of like, maybe let's try everything else before we do ballet. So I tried a lot of different stuff when I was younger. But yeah, nothing was as kind of interesting and inspiring as ballet for me. And also all of my siblings were doing it. So I was like, why not?
That's nice. Okay. And moving to the last question in my blog, it will be personally to Nikos. Yeah, and it sounds like this. You became a professional ballet dancer and absolved Bolshoi and Vaganova academies in Russia. Now you're in transition of becoming an excellent and renowned photographer and media producer. Can you tell us how did this development came about, and in which way dance still plays an important part of your art, and if it serves as a source in your new profession?
Yeah, I mean, I first started at the Bolshoi Ballet Academy, and I was there for I think 5 or 6 years, and then I went to the Vaganova Academy for 1 year. Unfortunately, towards the end, I got an injury, and kind of when I had that injury, I was kind of dealing with the psychological kind of aspect of that, and I was thinking about like what else I wanted to do and kind of what other hobbies I had. And so I just picked up a camera and started taking photos. And actually, like 6 months into my hobby, I was invited to photograph Sergei Polunin, and that was kind of like the start of my career when I was 15. And after that, I was like, okay, I can do this seriously. I can like actually kind of start doing this as something more than a hobby. And I just started getting into it. I fell in love with it because I could still be in the same kind of sphere of artists and kind of profession. So I was still around all the people that inspired me when I was younger. And I actually got to build like close relationships with some of my idols. So it's a really cool experience that I'm still kind of going through, but dance is involved in it from beginning to end. Even when I'm photographing fashion or something that's not necessarily ballet, I'm always using that kind of knowledge of movement that I have from my training. And, it's something that always is going to be inspiring my work, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. It was really interesting to listen to.
Thank you. Great questions.
I would like to stick a bit on it because, I think it's so interesting. At the Ballett-Akademie Munich, we have many students. Alexandra, you're one of them. You're coming from this kind of Ukraine or Russian dance world.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, she's from the Ukraine, Alexandra. And we have quite a few really coming from Russia, Ukraine to the Western world. And you guys, you are coming from the Western world, the United States, to Russia. And still, to be honest, I don't really get it. Why Nadia and Maria, they went somewhere completely different for their education. Somehow both of you went to France. Is this right? Yes, Maria and Nadia, for the first. You went both to the Princess Grass Academy. Is this right? Both of you?
Well, Maria went there to train year-round, and I spent all my summers there. So I actually had moved to New York to study privately with Eva Evdokimova, who I'm sure you know. She was a prima ballerina.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I actually, while Maria was training there year-round, I had moved to New York. So a lot of, especially Maria and I, our paths have kind of gone a bit like this. We've ended up in the same place a lot of times, but then sometimes she's gone one place, I've gone another place. Also in Berlin, when she was in the company there, I was in the ballet school there. So then again, we were together. So it's kind of a...
And there was no
with
class?
With me and Nicholas, we're always stuck together.
Yeah, there was like almost a year where I got rid of him. He went to Royal.
Yeah.
He was always following your footsteps. Yeah, because I think it's interesting that the girls somehow they went to leave from the US to Europe, and you boys you went you followed the footsteps of your sisters ballet wise, but you went directly the way to Russia, and this is interesting still for me.
Yeah, we were like, that's too easy. We got to go hardcore.
Well, the thing is that we didn't know enough, Anna. So when I started, we were very uneducated about the ballet world, about what it took, about the schools even. I mean, I had someone tell me I had hyperextended legs, and I burst out crying. I thought this was the most horrible thing in the world. I didn't understand why all the other girls had straight legs and I had bent legs, so that was the level of education that was that we had at that point. So then by the time it came to my brothers, Nadia and I had already gone through pretty much our professional training. And so obviously there was another level of education and awareness. And Nadia and I had Russian training and had Russian teachers, and we found that suited us and that suited what we wanted to pursue as far as the results we achieved. So of course they could tell the story, it's also in the press already, but of how they got to Russia. But that's why it was even looked at. It's because the opportunity came, and it was kind of like, okay, this is a great opportunity, and they could already right away go to a place like Nicholas said, where everything is all set. There's a really set syllabus, and it's already shown that they get results. There's not much question about, is it good or not? So that's kind of what.
Also, Maria was the one that had to convince mom this was a good idea.
Yeah.
I was probably open to blame if it turned out poorly. I guess it turned out well though, so we're good.
Yeah.
You got saved, Maria.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much. This makes sense. I can really say. Yeah, then I directly would pass over to Australia, Mrs. Australia, Aisha Lucido. She's going to speak with Nadia Khan. So I'm very interested about this interview. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so for my first question, you 4 siblings are celebrated as dance sensations around the world. Was there never any concurrence or competition among you, as you all work in the same profession? In which way has it influenced your relationships? Do you ever speak of anything other than ballet?
So I think that's probably one of the most asked questions that we have, is if we have competition between us. And I always say that, first of all, it just never even crossed my mind personally, or I think any of us, to have competition between us, because we're so different, not only as people or personalities, but as dancers. So that's probably one of the things just in dance world is in general that can be very beautiful, right? Because we're always competing against each other, and you're thinking, oh, well, there's 100 other girls who are trying for the same job. So you always have to feel, because in the end, everybody is unique, which is what is really beautiful. Even, if you have to be the same in the corps de ballet, you still have your unique thing that's going to shine through when you're doing your dancing in your class, or if you get to do a specific role. Nobody's the same. So it's the same for us. Not one of us is the same as people or dancers, as artists. So there's no competition. And in fact, I would say I always feel like I'm more fortunate that I have siblings who understand really exactly what I do. It's like a secret weapon kind of, because you can talk to, even your mom, you can talk to them about something that happened that day, in the studio or at work or in school or whatever. But to really truly understand, exactly what it means when you say, oh, I fell out of this, and then that happened, and then this girl, and all that, maybe it sounds silly to somebody else, or your mom can be there for you as much as they want, but I think your siblings you have to use less words. They're going to understand exactly what you mean. As far as what we talk about, of course, there is like a lot of, not necessarily just ballet, but there's a lot of talk about dance in general, because we're all doing a lot of different projects all the time, all over the world. So even as Nicholas just said, a lot of his photography ends up being centralized around dance. So from that aspect, then we do talk about it a lot, but not only, because that would be too boring. You need to breathe sometimes.
Okay, thank you. So next is, have you siblings ever worked together at the same place or for the same artistic project?
Well, Maria and I, we worked together in Munich, actually, in the company there. So that was my first job. I worked with the junior company there in the Bayerische Staatsballett, and Maria was in the company. So that was really, for me, it was extra exciting because it was my first job, and not only was it my first job professionally, but I also got to be with my sister. So that was, you know, very nice. And I also had somebody to help me kind of navigate how it is to be a professional, because it can be kind of a shock sometimes when you come from school to being a professional, you know, just even little things like, oh, you mean I have to learn the entire Swan Lake Ballet in my little like 4 foot by 4 foot meter or foot area next to the bar? I can't actually do it the full out, you know, so, or how to act in the studio, all that kind of stuff. And then as far as like a project, the 4 of us, we do every single year the Yellowstone International Arts Festival in Montana, which we started 2 years ago. And we all 4 do that together. Maria is the artistic director. And yeah, I would say that's a very exciting project, especially last year as everything was closed during the pandemic. I think we were just one of 2 performances in the whole US that were able to actually happen. So that was a really big deal, very exciting to be able to keep it going. And yeah, anyways, to have the project together is fun, but also to know that you're being able to keep the art alive kind of in such an odd time. That was very exciting for us.
Well, thank you. You were born in Montana, educated in France, and you danced in Germany, Spain, and Italy. What were your experiences like dancing and working in so many culturally diverse places, and which place do you consider to be your home?
I'll answer the second part of the question first, that my home is Montana. It always will be. Maria and I were just speaking about that last week. No matter how many places I've lived in, I still will always call Montana home. I consider it home. So that's always my home. Yes, of course, I live in other places. Right now I live in Rome and I have my home here, but I still consider home Montana when I think of home. As far as spending time in different places, I think it's very interesting and exciting to see how different cultures and different countries approach ballet, how their level of appreciation is for it, but also their way of working, perhaps. So, you know, in Germany, things work like much more smoothly, which sometimes I very much miss working in Italy because they're not quite as organized all the time. So there's less stress from that aspect, but you definitely work like very hard, which I personally love. I love working a lot. But then, for instance, when I worked in Spain, of course, you're still working a lot and hard, but I think the dancers, as a lot of them were Spanish, their approach to the work was a bit more lighthearted, which sometimes I think is nice when you're doing such a serious art form, you know, to be able to have a laugh in between. So yeah, it's different. I think there's really good things about every place that I've worked, and I'm always really happy to see parts of that country that I may not have seen otherwise, because you go on tour a lot, and or you have maybe one weekend off to go somewhere and explore a bit. So even from that aspect, I think you can understand people better. So
okay. And for the last question, you and Julian were working in Rome, Italy, and San Francisco in the United States during the pandemic, 2 of the most highly affected countries. How have you experienced this very difficult and challenging time? How could you maintain a high level of motivation physically, mentally, and artistically?
Well, I actually was fortunate that when they were about to close the theater, I left actually. So I wasn't stuck here the whole time, fortunately. I know that was very hard for a lot of my colleagues because there was no work and they couldn't really leave their apartments. I was fortunate enough to be able to go home during that time. So I ended up spending many, many months at home, which I'm very thankful for because we're from Montana and you can at least go outside and all that. It's more movement than being stuck in a city in an apartment. As far as staying motivated, that's something that has been very hard, I have to say. But it has forced me to, one, because I'm very hard on myself, it has forced me to try and accept that maybe you have to accept yourself the way you are right then in that day, in that time, and say, okay, how am I today? And how can I work on how I am today, instead of thinking too much about how you were yesterday or how you were 1 month ago or how you're going to be in 2 days. You know, you have to think, okay, this is me today. I'm going to do the best I can do today. Everybody's in the same boat. I'm going to push myself as much as I can today, and just try not to be too hard on myself, because then it actually isn't very helpful, you know. And I know it's a really, really hard situation for everybody, and my heart really goes out to all of the students, especially because as a professional, I'm a little bit more fortunate. Maybe you already did your audition, you have a job, but for students who have still to train and worry about getting a job and all that, I think this is really such a hard time. And I have so much respect for all of you guys that you have to go through this, and it's really, really difficult, and my heart really goes out to you, and great job, all of you, because it's not an easy thing to go through for a professional, but for a student, I think is probably even harder. As far as also, I think it's the second thing that has definitely helped me is to try and look at other things that I like maybe as well, to keep you still artistically stimulated. So I make jewelry. So I had more time to focus on that, which is still artistic. I really enjoy doing that. And I've been doing like more artistic things like drawing and painting and stuff like that as well. So I think it still can stimulate your artistic side, which helps with your dancing, but it also in a way can give you a reprieve. Because also if you're thinking all the time about how am I going to stay in shape? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? You kind of lose the artistic aspect of dance as well, which is, I think, in the end, what we all really love about it, you know? So I think maybe it's good to try and do something else artistic to keep that part of yourself going, but without this worry attached to it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Before we go over to the blog, Julian, anyway, to your blog, I would like to know, how was it for you? You were in San Francisco, I suppose, this time. How was it for you to survive Corona? It's still not over, but yeah, how you felt it this period?
Well, like Nadia was saying, it's definitely been an interesting transition. Towards the start of this whole kind of pandemic, I was still working in Russia, and we were actually producing a project with our production company, and it was due to happen. And about a week before, all of the kind of restrictions came, and we weren't able at all to do the project anymore. And so my first thought was, oh, I need to go home. And there was this kind of whole debacle that happened because it was very difficult to leave the country. We finally made it home, got to spend time all together as a family. And about 3 months in, I'm kind of thinking about the fact that I still am a dancer. I still want to dance, but what does that look like nowadays at all? And I kind of remembered that one of the people that had reached out to me a lot that past year was Helgi Thomason, the director of San Francisco Ballet. And I never really considered it seriously before that moment, because I didn't know that much about kind of American ballet. My whole training was in Russia, and the summer schools that I did were in Europe or even New York City. So I really knew nothing about San Francisco Ballet. And so I had an amazing conversation with him on the phone in a Target, and he offered me the job right on the spot. And about 2 months later, I came out here to San Francisco and kind of felt like I was starting a whole new life. But I'm really grateful just to be back in the studios, back working, because for about 8 months there, I was at home with my siblings trying to stay in shape somehow, do class in the living room. And I know kind of how much of a struggle that is. So it's been really amazing we filmed a couple projects. We filmed Don Q and Swan Lake. And then I've also been working on a new ballet with Helgi Thomason. And so I've gotten that traditional aspect where I'm used to like running through full length ballets and just doing that on the regular, and that like keeping me in shape. So I'm grateful that I've had that still a little bit. And then also I've gotten to work with kind of with Helgi directly and work on some new choreography. So I still know how to learn ballet steps.
You also became a principal during this year.
Yeah, I got promoted. That was super exciting and very. It's always like a long road to get to your goals. But the road for me has never been expected, and so this was just kind of one of those moments where the unexpected was almost very natural because that's how it always kind of is with me.
Wow, biggest congratulations. Of course we know this, that you're the principal of San Francisco, but we didn't know about the time when this happened. So biggest congratulations from Munich, from all of us, I can really say.
Oh, thank you.
Big applause, amazing. Yes, Julian, I would like to introduce now Alice Hunter to you. She's from Ireland, from Dublin, and she's going to speak now with you. And I'm really excited to hear more.
Great.
Hi. The dance world speaks of you often using superlatives. So you were the first American to complete the full education program at Bolshoi, and you received the first award at Frida Lausanne in 2015. And at a very young age, you danced already in the Royal Ballet in London, in Mikhailovsky Ballet, and also now you're a principal at San Francisco Ballet. And which of these amazing achievements would you consider to be your absolute highlight?
Well, I would say kind of all of them in a certain way. When I was young, I didn't necessarily realize how you don't really realize what you're doing. And so I didn't really have the fear of not being the first. It was kind of just, well, I'm here already. I got to move forward. I'm going to deal with the stuff that's right in front of me. And kind of the same thing happened with Frida Lausanne, that when I went, I didn't necessarily know about how much that can change your career and your life.
I had no idea how serious it was.
I
think that's why you did well, because you were just
I
was
wasn't
gonna
nervous.
go and it'll be fun.
It's true. I think I didn't really realize how big of a chance and opportunity it is if you do well. And so I was like, well, I'm here, I might as well dance well. And the same thing kind of with Royal Ballet. When I was working there and I got to work with like Wayne McGregor, I didn't really understand the full extent of it until later on. And the same thing with Mikhailovsky, it kind of started to catch up with me a little bit, that these first like steps I was taking on stage as Albrecht were kind of a big deal, because my coach was like really specific about how they needed to be done. And at the same time for me, then that kind of became the new normal, that I would dance these like amazing full-length ballets, 2-3 times a week. And then now coming to San Francisco, it's for me, it's always very unexpected, but I think I've been grateful like along the way to not necessarily to not know too much about it, so that you stress yourself out. I'm definitely good at kind of being present and dealing with stuff that's like right in front of me.
Cool. So, and then about the future, do you have any companies or choreographers or even partners that you would really like to work with in the future?
Yes, definitely. I'm really grateful, because with Nicholas, we're always kind of together producing projects, doing things. And this past year with our company MacKay Productions, we had a lot of kind of setbacks in terms of postponing shows and events and galas that were already planned for internationally. And so we luckily have kind of been able to transition into rescheduling them, and now already hopefully moving forward with them and actually producing them. So we're really happy to start connecting people in interesting, exciting ways. And I can't share like too much, but we'll be able to share a lot more soon.
Very cool, very cool. And do you have any favorite roles or favorite ballets?
So a longtime favorite for me was definitely Giselle Albrecht. I danced that variation since I was really little, and for me it was something that those epic entrechattisses at the end of the ballet were like a career moment for sure, where I wanted to do them. I started rehearsing them at Mikhailovsky, and then when I finally danced them, it felt like such a victory. Even though you feel so dead after them, it feels just amazing that you made it to the end. So I'd say definitely probably Giselle. Another one would be like Flames of Paris. I had a lot of fun with that. I danced it like all over the world. But nowadays, I definitely want to try out more repertoire that's, maybe kind of uniquely challenging in terms of emotionally and maybe obviously still physical, but I think more on the dramatic side.
Cool. And yeah, you've attended many prestigious dance competitions. And what was the most important thing you feel you've learned from them? And what do you think are the good sides as well as maybe possibly risks for young dancers attending competitions?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to understand that when you prepare yourself, the amount of preparation that you put in is the exact result you're going to get. And for me, that was something that not all the time I had enough like time to prepare. You know, if you have 2 weeks to prepare for a competition, that's not that much time. And the thing that I did always was that to kind of gain that extra time, I would go through the steps even when I wasn't necessarily doing it physically. And I would kind of picture it before the rehearsal, after the rehearsal, visualizing it, like going perfectly. And so I remember when I was still young and I was rehearsing for Peter Lizan, I had this really difficult like pirouette double tour from like one leg at the end of the variation. And my coach at the time, Nikolai Tikhomyrov, he was a previous dancer, previous soloist from Bolshoi, the Bolshoi company, but he didn't actually work at the school. And so I asked him to come into the academy and coach me on this variation, because I would coach with like my teacher a little bit, but he didn't really have any time. And then I would coach with him later in the evenings. And even with him, I had about like an hour and a half, and I had about a week to prepare. And so I knew that that was not enough time for me to give a really good result. And so what I would do is before the rehearsals, I'd go through it like in my head, like going perfectly. And then when I was in the moment, it was almost as if I had already danced it and already like done coaching with him that day, because I went through it like so thoroughly.
Yeah.
So I think that's like one of the best things to do with competitions is to prepare as much as possible, to go through it in terms of visualizing it as much as you can. And then the actual like result of the competitions doesn't really matter, because if you have grown through the process, then that's going to help you like extremely, like for the rest of your career, your life. It's something
also
that's
the
always,
people you meet there. I think that's something that people don't talk about a lot.
Definitely the people. And I think also like just the experience of having the stress that you're worried about performing, you have to be prepared to go on stage. It's very similar to professional life when you dance 2 acts and the only thing left is the final pas de deux. You're nervous before going on stage. You're like, trying to warm yourself up. It's very similar to a competition.
Very good, very good. And so you're an international ballet star, and you also have modeling jobs and projects on the side, and you're also quite active on social media. And do you manage to still have a private life?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I try and like keep as much as possible in terms of like my private life off of social media, because I think nowadays it's one of those things that you don't really have any time to yourself, especially if you're kind of a public figure. And even as a dancer, you're always at the studio, or you're always in the theater. And so I try and kind of keep that off social media. But yeah, I definitely enjoy having fun.
Nice. And so do you try to keep a healthy lifestyle to manage to recover from the very demanding and challenging artistic life you have?
I would say probably yes and no. Yes, because I think I do, and no, because it doesn't always go that way. But little by little, I think I'm growing and becoming smarter now, especially over this time period, because I've really realized more and more and more that without that kind of constant physical, stress of going on stage and dancing and jumping like every single day, that you do have to like make sure that you take care of your body, because all of those like little moments that you did a weird thing with your ankle or you jumped a little weirdly, you do start to feel them and stuff. And so I think it's really important definitely to, take care of yourself as much as possible, because then at the end of the day, you're going to be able to perform a lot better.
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Thank you.
So before we go over to the last block and to Maria Sascha Khan, is going to be introduced by, almost colleague, Elise Smith. Julian, I have two little stories really for you. And I'm very happy I can tell them now to you. I would like to introduce two people today. And one is Dima, one of my students. And it was very touching. 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, I asked my students if they could choose from the complete dance history, one person with whom they want to speak with. And for me, it was Jean-Georges Norbert from the 18th century. I said I would love to speak once in my life with Jean-Georges Norbert. I would not be very lucky. And there was one who said, I would like to speak with Nureyev. One said Nijinsky. I think one said Marie Taglioni. And yes, and there was you. And Dima, he was the one. I'm so thankful. Dima said 2 weeks ago, with him, this whole story of this interview today began, because he said if he could choose one person, it would be Julian MacKay. And now I would like to at least somehow introduce Dima to you. I don't know if it works, but we will see. I don't know if my...
Thank you, Dima. Thank you. It's a good idea.
I would like to introduce, here he is, Dimitri. Perhaps you could even introduce yourself just a moment, in your language even, if you want to.
I speak Russian. Ой.
Здорово, привет. Рад познакомиться.
Тоже спасибо, что пришел. Я не знаю, что сказать. Я чуть-чуть опоздал, просто я был у врача. У меня
Все нормально.
Проблемы с ногой. Спасибо еще раз.
Да, я рад познакомиться. Как вообще ты узнал про меня?
Боже, Инстаграм всякие.
Инстаграм, да?
Да, я ни разу тебя вживую не видел, как ты танцуешь. Но я думаю, это скоро я тебя увижу, потому что...
Еще надо собрать. Надо, чтобы ты поехал, станцевал на моих голах.
Я с радостью. Чуть-чуть попозже.
Вылечишься, станцуешь.
Вот видишь, Инстаграм не впустую.
Okay, thank you so much. At least I wanted to introduce Dima once to you, if there was this chance. And yeah, Julian, there's one person more. It's very funny because, Nadia, Maria, Sascha, Khan, with them I'm really friends over the 10 years. I told you that you were always, your brothers, you were always in our speeches, and we are speaking about you, and I heard everything about you. And so I'm speaking quite often about my friends, my beautiful friends, Maria and Nadia, and also to my students. And one ex-student is Nina Ackermann. And she told me, oh, that's crazy. I know Mina, I know Maria, and I know Nadia. And I met Julian 2014, and she sent today a really so lovely picture. Lovely picture.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that was a long time ago.
Mina, perhaps you want to say something. You want to introduce yourself.
Hello. In 2014, you came to international ballet competition in Turkey.
Yeah.
And I was a huge fan of you. I came and took 4 pictures with you, and the fourth one, this was the fourth one. You looked at me like, but we took pictures before like 3 times or something. And on that time I knew your whole family, and I was a big fan of you, and I'm still a fan of you, and it's like such a big opportunity to talk with you. It's like amazing right now.
Oh, thank you for that awesome memory. I love this photo. This is great. I'm like super happy because I remember that this choreography that I did, it's called Point of Origin. At the time, I didn't know at all if it was going to be good, and they gave me the Grand Prix, and I didn't expect that at all, because my contemporary number was something that was half thought up and half choreographed by my mom and Maria. It was very unexpected, and so I think that's why I'm super happy and just ecstatic.
And we can tell you're a little crazy in that photo.
What, Maria?
I just said, and we found his costume also the day before.
Oh yeah, we bought it there in Istanbul. Yeah, we did.
It's actually a long story. He was talking about not being prepared for competitions, and actually he did 3 in a row.
Oh yeah.
Coach, and so I came to coach him to help prepare him.
Ray was my very serious team.
Very hard.
It's a one-woman superwoman.
But so we flew to Istanbul very, very early in the morning. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. We took the flight there, and
Nicholas was the costume lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a wonderful experience. I have to say, all of the people that were there, and even Mina, right?
Yeah.
It was wonderful to meet all of the students and all of the teachers and all of the kids. I'm talking now for Julian, but also because I was there, and it was great. We still to this day, we love the experience. Everybody in Turkey and in Istanbul was so welcoming and had such a love of ballet. It was really inspiring for us to see it. So it's nice to meet you here.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. Thank you so much.
Okay, this was lovely. I had to do this. I'm so happy I could tell these 2 little stories. I could not keep them behind. So I would like now, the last block, I would like to introduce 2 people who already know each other. Elise and Maria Sascha Khan, you met each other already before in the ballet studios in England and London. I think you told me, Elise. And so this is really, really beautiful. I can introduce you both.
Hello, I'm not sure if you remember me at all, but I've seen you a few times at Dance Works and always been mesmerized.
When I saw your face when we started, I knew I'd seen your face somewhere, but I wasn't sure if it was from Munich or if it was from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, yes, I know your name as well for some reason. I also recognize.
Yeah.
Nice to have this chance to talk with
Yeah,
you.
lovely to talk with you. So these are about your thoughts and the future, these questions. So you're still performing as a principal guest dancer, and you've also begun a program of cultural management studies, and you're giving international masterclasses. And as we've just heard, you're coaching professionals like your brother, Julian. So you're already taking part in so many endeavors, but I wondered, do you have any more plans for the future?
My plans for the future is so basically we started this festival 2 years ago, the Yellowstone International Arts Festival, and that was a really huge step in all of our lives, but also for me personally, because I was born literally in the middle of nowhere in Montana, and there was no access to arts and culture, and my parents made a huge effort to expose us to that. And as Nicholas mentioned, it was a part of our household and a part of our life, so it was something that we thought of as being a career, fortunately. But the festival for me has been a huge step because it's a way to have a platform where I can bring all of these things I'm doing together. So that's what I'm kind of focused on. And I actually also have the chance to perform in it. So it brings together these different aspects of what I'm doing, and the potential of what we're building is quite big. And we would like to be able to bring eventually, even for example, the Munich Ballet School to perform and that kind of thing once things open up. So there's a lot of different things that I'm doing and that I have done, and I'm working to just kind of bring them all together. So yeah,
it's so inspiring because you're really not just a ballet dancer, you're kind of also a businesswoman. You're really one woman powerhouse kind of.
Well, it was always so when I was 10, it was when I first decided I wanted to be a professional, and when I understood that was really something you could pursue. But I also felt like if you only limit yourself to doing it as a profession, perhaps you miss out on the large opportunities that you could have within that art form and within that sphere. And so I myself was always really inspired by people that I saw who really excelled at what they chose, but then looked at how they could multiply that into other opportunities. So I guess that's what it's always been about for me. How can I take my skill set and multiply that to help other people? Because I think that's one of the most important things, is not just to be the best or to be the most important, but how can you use what you have to give for other people? So that's why I also choose to pursue my master's degree at Central St. Martin's in London, is because it was a way to, again, put the experience I already had from culture production, and put it towards like an actual degree. So yeah, it's been exciting. It keeps me busy.
Yeah, your resume is quite something. You danced professionally in Russia, and out of all of your siblings, I believe you spent the longest duration in Germany with Staatsballet Berlin and the Bayerische Staatsballet. I'm just curious what you think about German culture, and maybe about the cities, Berlin, Munich. What was different? What thoughts the same.
Well, I'll forever be grateful to Germany because it's where I started my career and where I was able to develop as a professional dancer. And I started in Berlin, and I had the chance to really work on and dance all the great classics and also learn from. I mean, at the time, all of the principals in the company were at the level of, I would say, prima ballerinas, not just principals. Was a little bit intimidating because I thought I'm never going to make it to principal, because you're looking at Polina Semyonova and Yana Selenko and Vladimir Malakov, and these are just icons, you know, huge stars, not just principals, and you're going, how am I never going to do that? But I learned so much from just going and watching the rehearsals and listening to the corrections they were getting and seeing the artistry that they put in the musicality and all of that. And also Beatrice Knopp, a really wonderful, extraordinary German dancer. So that opportunity to really be immersed into the culture is something that it exists in Russia, but then within Europe, I think Germany is really great at that. And then again in Munich, I had the opportunity to further progress with my repertoire, and just amazing choreographers that were able to come. And a lot of that does come down to the support of the arts, because of course it takes money. And in Munich in particular, they really give a lot of support to the company, and that enabled them to bring in these people to do new ballets for us. You know, people that it's probably most people's dream to even get in the studio with them, nonetheless have them do a new work on you. So that was one of the main things I love about German culture, is the fact that they actually support culture and they put money towards it. I support it. It was really great to be able to learn the language and to become fluent in German. I don't think I would have learned this language otherwise. And the understanding, Nadia mentioned this, but when you live somewhere, you get such a deep understanding of that culture, and it helps you understand people as a whole and understand that there is a different way of doing things. Everyone has their way that they approach life. And so you shouldn't be too rigid in your approach because they grew up doing it that way, you grew up doing it this way, right? So you can find a common ground with people. And that was something I really enjoyed about being able to work and live in Germany. And on a personal note, when I was in Munich, of course, it's so sunny. It's a lot more sunny than Berlin, which was great.
Oh, really?
Yes, I have to say my first year in Berlin, I mean, I was in the theater all day, every day anyway, but it was very hard. There was no sunshine and it was very gray. And it was intense because you leave the studio and it's dark out, and you get to the theater and it's dark out. So I had been training in Monaco with lots of sunshine. So it was very different. And then when I came to Munich, I guess compared to Berlin, I found that it was very sunny. I had the Alps, the mountains, which reminded me of Montana. And I would take some trips to go, you know, on the weekend to Italy or whatever, which was very enjoyable on a personal levels. Yeah, so those are some of the things that I really enjoyed.
I mean, I'm from London, so I understand rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have so much experience with the professional dancing lives of yourself and of your siblings. But if you could change one thing about the dancing world, what would it be and why?
So there's more than one thing. I would maybe focus on two things in particular. One, which is partly why I decided to pursue a degree myself, is that I think that there's a shift that needs to happen in company culture and the way that companies are run. I think the structure is outdated, and it's something that was developed so many years ago that perhaps it hasn't kept pace with the changes in our culture and our society. And I say that because I think there's a way that they could be maximized to take more sort of to take the potential that is available now, you know, so they're functioning an outdated model. And I think that could be changed, that could be updated so that companies could thrive, they could flourish. And it's important to look at it from that perspective. It might not be interesting for students, of course, because, you know, you're still just starting. Maybe it's not so interesting. Oh, I don't care what the structure is, but it does actually directly affect you. Because, for example, right now, when you enter a company, a lot of the time you have to sit around, you have to wait for 2 years, and then maybe you finally get a chance to do something. And when you come out of school is when you have the most drive. You have the most desire to prove yourself and to really push. And after sitting around for a couple of years, it gets hard to still find that same push. So that's, for example, something that perhaps could be adjusted, so that people actually from the beginning have more of an opportunity to show, right? You went through all of these years of training. You don't want to then sit for a couple of years. And so I don't have all the solutions yet, but I've been learning a lot, and it would be nice if there could be some changes also with the way that management, it's really wonderful to have a really famous dancer at the head of a company, because their name will draw funds and it will draw maybe connections. But at the same time, sometimes when you're a really famous dancer, you're used to thinking about yourself, about your career, about how you're going to progress. And once you're the head of a company, you don't think about yourself anymore. You think about everybody else. You think about all the other dancers. And I think this shift can be hard for some people to make. So perhaps, for example, there could be an encouragement for them to also pursue kind of an education to learn more about how to run a company. It's a different skill set, but one that could apply your skill set as a dancer too, if that makes sense. They're not completely separate. It's just you need to do it in a different way. And then I would just try to also encourage the artists to be more a part of it. I think sometimes as an artist, you feel like you have no control over your career, and you feel like you're just at the mercy of whoever makes the decision. And in a way you are. But I think it would be nice if there could be a change where artists felt a little more valued and more a part of what was going on. I think that would make a big difference as far as what they're able to give in the studio as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because you're right. I didn't think we as students think about management, or company management.
I heard the other more dancers talking about it. I thought, oh, who cares about that? That's boring. Then 2 years down the line, I thought, oh, okay, now I understand why they were it. So yeah,
definitely. And lastly, what do you think is the most important quality for a dancer in the 21st century to have? And what would you advise students before entering a company to work professionally, and how to grow themselves as a dancer artist?
So the number one thing I would say is say yes to opportunity. Say yes. Do not wait until you feel you're ready for it, because most times you will only be ready once you put yourself in the situation. And
that's a really good point. I second that. And that's my entire career is based on that.
I third and fourth that, whatever one I would be.
It's a huge thing. And you might think, okay, I'll just wait till next year because that opportunity will come next year. It won't. Most of the time it won't. Most of the time when an opportunity presents itself, if you don't say yes, it's not going to come again. And it is a short career. No matter how you look at it right now, when you're a student and you think it seems like so far away that you're going to finally be dancing those ballets or finally, get to do what it is you're training for. It's actually not. It goes very quickly. And by saying yes to every opportunity that comes, no matter if you feel ready or not, the opportunities will multiply because you say yes to one opportunity, and from that other opportunities come. So I've seen a lot of dancers out of fear say, oh no, I'm not quite ready. I'm going to wait. I'm going to just wait a little bit longer until I feel comfortable. When do you finally feel comfortable? 10 years later, your career's over. So I would say yes, whatever it is. You will learn, you will grow, you develop, even if it's a mistake. Okay, you learned that was a mistake. You can do something different. You can do it different next time. So that would be a huge thing that I would say, is to say yes. And the other thing, there's two more things. Don't fall into the mindset of, oh, I have to go to class today, or, oh, I have to do rehearsal today. Change your words and say, I get to do class today. I get to go to rehearsal today. And I'm sure with the current situation, it's not hard for you to understand that. I'm sure you already have all already switched your mindset to go, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I can have class and rehearsal, But I would say as the years you go on, keep that mindset. Sometimes once we get in a company atmosphere, people, all of us, right? Me as well, we get a little bit in our own thing of, I'm really tired, I'm really sore, I don't know the choreography, whatever it is. So you feel a bit like, oh, I have to go there again. Don't do that. Try as much as you can. Be like, I get to go there again. I get to go tonight to do the performance, even if you're really tired, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It will make a big difference towards how your body reacts, because what we tell ourselves is also then how we react. You know what I mean? So if we say, this is great, I'm so excited to do it, your whole body goes, oh great, I'm really excited. So it's really helpful. And then the third thing is actually dance history. So I see a lot of dancers very talented with technique, and because we have access to so many dancers on Instagram, there sometimes is a loss of education as far as what came before you. So which ballets and which dancers formed dance history until now. So look at them and understand them, and learn from them, because once you do, you can spread your wings and you can fly in the direction that you feel that, you know, dance should be taken, and you can give what you have to give to the art form. But if you don't have an understanding of what came before you, how can you bring it into the future? And all of you, you're a future, all of you are, right? All of you are going to be having the next you know, directors of the opera houses, you're going to be the next big dancers, all that kind of thing. So I think that it's a personal responsibility for each of us to understand that, so that we can preserve and we can grow the art form. Yeah. And I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean it can bring you so much yourself. If you look at that, because for me, I wasn't introduced to a lot of dancers until I was maybe 14 or 15. And actually there was one mentor, she had stopped dancing, but we just got along really well. She had turned into a photographer, and she introduced me to some really gorgeous dancers who I'd never heard of before. And to this day, I still I don't idolize that many people, but there's a couple that I haven't met yet that I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I met them, I would die, you know? So, and it gave me a lot to see them and understand where they came from and the qualities that they have. So those are the things I would encourage you all to do with your career. Yeah.
Can I add something onto that?
Yes.
Because I think you had asked about how students could also prepare artistically, right? Was that
exactly
the question?
Yeah.
I know, for instance, like as Maria had said, you know, you spend a lot of time on Instagram or YouTube and you look at the technique aspect of what this dancer is doing, what that dancer is doing. But I think that a lot of people forget to look at the artistic aspect of it. So I know even Julian, for instance, when he was preparing for Giselle, I believe it was, I remember him talking to me on the phone and saying, no, because I was watching the video and Nureyev does his eyes in this moment and he moves them up this way, but then Baryshnikov did it the other way. And so I have to decide, but I think maybe it's better the way that Nureyev did it. So these are the things that's part of what makes you an artist. It's not just about, oh, how many pirouettes did they do? Oh, wow, look at how beautiful her feet are, or how long she balanced. It's about those in-between moments, you know, how did she react when she got that letter in Onegin? Things like that. That's the thing that is going to make you an artist, because we're not gymnasts, we're not gymnastic creatures, super freaks, even though some of them are, but you still have to try and, you know, maintain that artistic integrity because it is an art form. So I think that's something that anybody can do. You don't have to be an amazing dancer, not an amazing dancer to study those aspects of it. It's, you know, the stagecraft, which is something for me that is so important because that's what's going to tell the story to the audience. And that's what's going to make people go inside to you as a person, as a character, and as an artist. And you're going to be able to transmit emotions to people through that, you know. So pay attention. How am I going to react to this? How would my head move? What would even be your normal reaction in that normal situation? I think a lot of people maybe forget that. They think, okay, well, now I have to go stage left, and then I have to go stage right, and then I have to go down stage, and then I have to look surprised. You know, they forget that you're supposed to be in a story and it's actually happening to you. So you can even think, how would I react, or how would this person with this character react if this thing truly happened to them, you know? And yeah, just even how you move your eyes or your hand, or wait 1 second later, or things like that. So you don't have to be professional to already think about that. I think that would be maybe a helpful aspect to study.
No, that's really beautifully said. And it wonderfully ties us back to Frau Becker, who's goal seems to be to preserve dance history and learning about what came before.
It's definitely really important. Nadia mentioned there a little bit how I spent a lot of time with Giselle. Another one that I like really meticulously watched videos and tried to research as much as possible was La Sophie. And at the end of the ballet, there's this like fall. And sometimes like, you know, as James, you turn around and see the sylph kind of like being carried away and she's dead. And you're like, oh no, you're heartbroken. Mage like terrifies you, you know, I don't know, casts a spell and you die. But I remember watching so many videos and I didn't understand like what I was supposed to be feeling and how I was supposed to just fall to the ground and that was it. Like it didn't make sense to me. And I was speaking with my coach and he showed me this really old video of his teacher. And he was like, this is how you're supposed to do it. And then he shows me a video of himself. And he's like, this is also how you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. And then when I now watch the video of me falling at the end of La Sophie, it's exactly the same as my coach. And it's kind
actually crazy how much you do it like
it's kind of funny that like something that I didn't understand could be like conveyed by a coach and also by history at the same time. And that as a result, I did it pretty much exactly the same, even though obviously my emotions and feeling were very different than my coaches or his teachers.
Well, it's those little moments that make those ballets kind of what they are today and why they're still classics.
Yeah.
Is because there were those performers that kind of remembered those moments that make the whole ballet work and make it something special. Because otherwise, you know, we see thousands and thousands of swan lakes in a dancer's career. And yet some of them still stand out. And there's a reason for that. And it's not the amount of pirouettes that someone does.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. This was really absolutely impressive listening to all of you. I loved to listen to your voices. Thank you so much and to your thoughts. Now is a very nice moment, my favorite one probably. We're going to now see all of you and all of us. So we're now finished with this official part of the interview, and we would like to see now and introduce all of our students who are with us today. Some of them are already in Easter holiday flying, or some of them are already flight somewhere else and are with us now. And I believe maybe there are also a few questions left from my students. So I think this will take a second until we see all of us. Oh, hello. I'm happy now I can introduce a huge part of my lovely students to you guys, to you, Julian, Nicholas, Nadia, and Maria, Sascha. Wonderful. Yes, I think there were now other questions maybe from our students. Who would like to start? Who has another question? Yes, Rosanna, please. Hello.
Hi, I have a question. Nowadays, social media has such a great impact on our lives, and as dancers, it has become a platform for sharing, viewing talent and artistry. Do you feel that social media has a positive impact on the dance world, or do you think it puts a greater focus on tricks rather than dancing itself?
I think it definitely depends on how you use it. A lot of people focus on their social media doing something that nobody's done before, and that does garner a lot of attention. But a lot of the times when people see that, they like obviously try and do it better or do it the same, but it doesn't necessarily improve on anything. And especially as of late, over this past year, I think even myself, I've realized that like when I was in school, I did all these like pirouette videos and jumps and stuff. But now I try and focus more on things that like in general bring just positivity. Because when you get to like brighten up someone's day with, you know, a happy smile, or you're doing something fun and you share that, or you're in a beautiful place, I think a lot of the history that's tied in with ballet is super cool. And I recently got these really old kind of booklets from the Royal Ballet from like Nuriev's time, and I'm going through them and stuff, and I'm looking and I'm like just amazed at how the artists danced back then. And I was sharing it on social media, and I was really surprised that like more people connected with that than anything else that I posted like that day. And I think it just goes to show that a lot of the times the things that we share on social media can be things that are more inspirational and more kind of inspiring rather than kind of self-centered and kind of focused just on yourself.
I also wanted to say that I was talking about shifts, you know, and obviously this might not be as interesting to you guys, you're a lot younger, but shifts that are happening in the company culture, which obviously will impact your careers. And one of the main things I've seen is social media. So when I was dancing in Munich, I was, if not the first, but one of the only dancers in the whole company that went on Instagram and started an Instagram account and also took over the Twitter account of the company. They had never done that before. And it was very strange to my colleagues. They really didn't like it very much. They thought it was very strange that I was taking pictures and that I was sharing things. But I think it's wonderful because I was saying also about how sometimes you can feel that the control of your career is not in your hands at all. And that's a very difficult thing because you put so much work into it and you're working so hard. And then, you know, what can you do? And one of the things that can give some freedom in the life of artists is actually social media, because you have a chance to show yourself. Like maybe you don't have a chance to show yourself on stage because maybe the director didn't cast you, right? But you can share it on social media, and then maybe you get, like, again, I come back to opportunity, you can get opportunity through that. So I think it's great because it can give us a platform to you as an individual, as an artist, to show what you have to give. And I think that's a really positive thing.
Yeah, I think also, like, to add to what Maria was saying, like, it's definitely still kind of an experiment, and we all kind of don't necessarily, you know what it is yet because it's such a new thing, even if we feel like we have this whole social media thing figured out right now. It's still very new, and especially in the dance world, it's still very new. And it's a new concept for dancers to kind of be promoting themselves. And it's something that I talk with all of the dancers that I work with when I do creative direction for them or when I'm doing photography, is that it is a huge asset to show people who you are, why you dance, or why you do anything you do, and for them to connect with you and for you to build on the amount of work that you've done, because there's so many dancers that are just amazing dancers,
crazy talented,
that no one knows because they don't have social media. And I see that as just like a huge loss of talent, because so many more people could be connecting with that. And it's just about teaching these people to kind of understand that worth. But it's definitely a balance, because there's a lot of people that I know that kind of can turn it into, like Nadia and Maria were saying, kind of just like gymnastics. And for me, it's about not losing that personal aspect of each individual artist and kind of creating them into this image of, like, you know, a star in that way, because all these dancers are beautiful individuals, and social media is definitely a great asset to kind of show that off.
Yeah, I think it's about your kind of unique brand and what you represent, and trying to share that as much as possible,
because someone will connect with it.
Yeah. And I don't know, for me, although even like when I do like a pirouette video or a crazy jump or something, I just remember so many times I would like post it on social media, have that support from like the audience there, and then feel like, wow, I should do this, I need to like improve on it. Or many times I would go to my director and be like, look, I did the trick, I can do the full show, like, look, I did it. And him kind of seeing that other people even were very supportive of that, he was like, oh, you know, maybe I should give you this role, or maybe I should give you that rehearsal that you want to do. So I think it's quite powerful that as an artist and as a dancer, you get to kind of control your own story. And that's one of the few spaces that you can do that in, and also be working at the theater. I
think it's a balance of kind of not giving social media too much control over that, and keeping your vision rather than maybe what you think people want to see.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's another question, I think. Samuel, thank you.
First of all, thanks for the interview. It was really great listening already. And I wanted to ask, because you already talked before about all the travels and where you already have been, and already at such a young age, especially. So I wanted to ask about the cultural change and how that affected you, and also what has been maybe quite a big surprise for you, also moving to Russia, and not only in the ballet world and in the technique, but also in general day-to-day life.
I think like the reason why even me and Nicholas were okay to try and go places and see things was that when I was really young, my dad always was flying around for work, and so he had these like frequent flyer miles. And so for like holidays, instead of maybe like going, I don't know, to the national park that was close to us, we would like hop on a plane and like fly somewhere for free and get to see like, you know, the Eiffel Tower or something, which is crazy. And I think because of that experience, I wasn't really worried about not understanding other people, even if I didn't speak their language, or not understanding a different culture. And so like when I got a little bit older and we went to Russia, and then like when we travel and do projects and stuff, I'm just really open about the fact that if I don't know something or I don't understand something, that's totally fine, but I want to. And I think a lot of the times when you're trying to connect with people, or when you're trying to experience something new, the more open you are to that, and the more willing you are to kind of, I don't know, I guess understand each other. It's I don't know. I remember when we went to China for the first time, it was like we showed up at the airport, nobody speaks English, we had nowhere to go, and we like didn't understand how to get out of the situation. And one of the ways that we got out of the situation was simply by just asking a million people, and eventually everyone that didn't speak English showed us like where we should go. And the fact that we were open to that and willing to just take that like that step, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I also wanted to touch on, like you said, going to Russia, like even just besides like the difference in technique, the difference in culture and everything. I would say a huge reason for me and Julian's success in Russia was that we learned the language, and that we were open to learning the language, because there's so many people that come and they want it to be something that it's not, or they want it to be something different, whereas we were just there kind of to accept the whole entire culture and the whole language. And the differences. And so when you're kind of open to it, and you just like try, people in any country will notice that you at least wanted to connect. And in that way, like we weren't afraid of like making mistakes in Russian, or learning. Like even me, the reason why I learned Russian wasn't because of Russian class, it was because I had friends that I was talking to 24/7, and I had no idea what they were saying until I did. And that's kind of like the best way to learn a language, of culture, is to just spend time with the people. So.
And I'm sure it's the same thing in Germany, like at the school there, when you have a foreign student that comes to the school and you see them trying to learn German, you're like, you have massive respect for that. You're like, wow, they like really care about our culture, and, you know, maybe I should spend some time learning about them and their culture too.
Okay, Antonio, I think now we're almost at the end. Antonio wants to ask something, I think.
It's more like a personal question, but how many languages you can speak, like each one?
Me and Nicholas can only speak two.
Okay.
Yeah, we're the boring ones.
We're the boring ones. The sisters are much better. Yeah.
Yeah, I speak, I guess, 4. Some better than others, but
I can't even think in Russian and English. I'm like, it's like a mishmash. I don't understand how you do 4. I have no idea.
I get my Spanish and my Italian very confused now. That's why I said.
It's almost the same thing.
Yeah, because they can be quite similar. But I speak English, obviously, German, Spanish, and Italian.
Okay, nice.
I speak English, German, French. And then for some reason, knowing those languages, I can randomly understand like Spanish and Italian, especially if I'm in the country. For some reason, I can speak it a little bit. I don't know why. I spent time in Cuba, and for some reason, the whole time I was there, I could speak Spanish, but I can't actually speak Spanish.
Same.
So
I was 12, and I was like, I totally got this. I can speak Spanish.
I think, you know, obviously it helps with other languages, but and then Russian, I understand and can speak enough if I'm with my coaches, because you have a certain understanding of the words you need to know for that. And so I have some understanding of Russian as well.
Because Italian, French, Spanish, and my language, Portuguese, they come all from the Latin. So like you can understand it was like it's really similar. So it's okay.
That's true. I actually spent some time in Brazil coaching for Prix de Lausanne when I was a student. And same thing, I was really happy that I could have at least understand, you know, or make out what people were saying. It was, I had a great time there.
By the way, Maria's being humble. Like sometimes when she comes to Russia and our friends are like talking she'll just like randomly like chime in, and I'm like, you understood that entire conversation?
It's
like,
actually
what?
kind of terrifying because you never know.
I'm like, what did you understand?
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think lost in translation. This is a good word to stop now. We have so many culture now. I'm really happy seeing so many people who are, I don't know, I see Zoad, he's just traveling home to Budapest just right in this moment. Claudie, she was flying home to France. I think you're already at home. So I think we see so many Nationalitäten at this moment together. And this makes me really happy. And I think it's a beautiful moment to stop. And maybe we could all just wave a moment into the camera and say goodbye. And I would like really to thank you so much for everything today. So bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Talking to you. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Happy Easter.
Thank you.
Bye.